You're at the Coaching Inn, 3D Coaching's virtual pub, where we enjoy conversations with people who are engaged in the world of coaching.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Coaching Inn, where John Blakey is back to talk about his new book, which is very exciting. Just a reminder, Force for Good, nice promotion there. I'm sure there'll be more. Just a reminder, if you would love to share this episode with a friend or a colleague, that would be amazing for us, because that broadens our audience. So if you like it, please share it. John, hello.
Good morning, Claire. It's great to be back. I remember fondly our conversation last time. You asked me some great questions, but given that you are a master coach, I know that you are going to ask me some great questions.
I'm not going to do a great big introduction about you. Do you know what's really funny? I'm chairing a panel discussion at the weekend where I've been asked to introduce somebody, and they've sent me the biography. And if I read what they've given me, everybody will have left by the time I finish talking because it's really boring. And he sounds really interesting. So I'm not going to do any boring introduction of you. I'm just going to say, so I'm not going to do any introduction at all.
No, fair enough. It's your show. It's your show.
Hello. If you want an introduction to John, look him up on LinkedIn. So, John, you've got a new book out.
I have. Have I shown this yet?
No, Force for Good. So now you have a trilogy.
Yes, I have a trilogy. I have a box set. I talk about it now that I've managed to get to a box set. When you have two books, you can't really have a box set, but when you get three, and you've had this experience, of course, you can have a box set. So yeah, there's something nice about a trilogy.
Nice. Have you got a box?
No, I haven't actually literally got the box set, but it would be quite a nice idea, even if it was just one, that I put my 3 copies in, to have like an official box set would be quite nice.
There's an amazing bookbinder here in Malvern who I'm sure would make you a bespoke box if you want.
Bespoke box, yeah. Well, there you go. I'll put it on my Christmas list, although it's a little bit of a long way off.
Indeed. So tell us the story behind the new book.
Yeah, story behind the new book, inspiration behind the new book was really the global pandemic and my experience of working with leaders through that time, and also my own experience of being a leader through that time. And not just that time, but the last 5 years. We've had a global pandemic, and I've still got a war in Europe, we've got a mental health crisis, we've had a cost of living crisis. It's been a tough time. Sometimes I don't think we pause and recognize that, as much as we could. It's been a tough time, and leaders, like everybody else, have been under pressure. They've learned lessons, and all of that work, really, writing the new book, Force for Good, was me trying to make sense of my experience, my client's experience, and share it in a way that hopefully might resonate and help purpose-driven leaders who are wanting to thrive and are wanting to be a force for good in a very uncertain world.
Wow. And more uncertain now than when you put your last full stop in.
Exactly. It's a disrupting and a disrupted time, and I don't expect that that's going to stop anytime soon. So if leaders want to be a force for good and be purpose-led, and at times that might feel like they're swimming against the tide, then they're going to need to be strong and fit and well supported to do that job well and to thrive whilst they're doing that job. So yeah, that was very much the inspiration for the book. It's interesting, compared to the last book, The Trusted Executive, which was based on academic research. This is very much field research, and it's very much about the lived experience of my clients and myself, in these last 5 years.
That's really interesting because there's a podcast coming up with Oscar Trimboli where he's talking from the research perspective and I'm talking from the lived experience perspective, and where they meet. We had a really interesting conversation about where they meet. So where have been the connections for you? What's been interesting about the academic versus the lived experience?
Well, the publisher said to me about this book, Force for Good, that it's more personal. I said to them, what do you notice? Because they'd read and edited the first, Trust Executive, and they read and edited this book. It was the same person. I said, it's interesting to just get your perspective. What do you think is similar and different? The theme is there's a continuation of the theme around purpose and trust, and business standing for something bigger, leaders in business standing for something bigger. That theme is still there, but the style, when you're not writing with an academic sort of oversight, I think it gives you more freedom to be a bit more personal, to bring a bit more emotion into the work. When you're writing more academically, it's there's more precision, there's more rigor, and just different styles. And I probably enjoyed writing this book. This book's been a lot of fun, and it is a lot of fun. The Trust Executive was the result of 6 years academic research. Academic research is great. Can you call it fun at times? Maybe, but it's tough, and it's rigorous, and it does sort of have a discipline about it that means that you've got to stick to the path a bit more. You can't go down as many B roads as I did with Force for Good.
I love that. It sounds like you said 6 years research,
Mm.
and then you had to write the book.
Yeah. Well, actually, I wrote the book after 4 years. 4 years into the research,
Yeah.
I wrote the book because the publisher wanted the book, and then I went back, finished the research, and then the second edition of the Trusted Executive in 2020 had all the full research in it. So I was quite pleased to get that second edition out because it had the full research in, whereas the first book
Nice.
had like 2/3 of the picture in it. So that's again, I suppose, that having to what the different demands of academic institutions, publishers, your audience, and like everything else, you're looking to build those relationships, and they have different needs and different expectations sometimes.
Yeah. And then the new one sounds like it's coming from your soul.
Yeah. There's more of me in it. And I think, I don't know whether you've had this experience, that the more you write, the more books you write, like everything else, it's about building confidence, and you bring in more of yourself to the table each time you write, I think, because you do build confidence. Not everybody is going to love what you write, but you do get people who get value from it and find it really helpful, and that gives you confidence to say, okay, well, let's bring a bit more to the table, and let's see what you make of that.
Yes, and let me write the book that addresses the things that I don't like when I watch people who read the first book. You go, oh, did I say that? Maybe I should say that in a different way.
Yeah. You learn, you build your confidence, and but it's a great journey going, the book writing journey, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a privilege to have the opportunity to do it. And I have to try to pinch myself every day to not, even though this is the third book, not to take it for granted, to still feel it like the first time, and not normalize the experience of writing books and doing what I do, because it's fantastic.
That's amazing. So where do you write?
Where do I write? Oh, I write in all sorts of different places. I don't have a special writing place. I'm someone who can sort of, I need half a day to write. I can't write sort of half an hour between doing emails. I need half a day, so I need to blank out some time. But if you give me half a day and you let me loose, then wherever I am, I could write on someone's kitchen top. I could write in the train. I could write sort of, the place is okay for me, as long as I'm sort of on my own. And I don't have a favorite writing place. I know some people do.
Well, it sounds like your favorite writing place is wherever you are.
Yeah, Yeah, and when you first asked me that question, where do you write? I mean, I write in my head and and in my heart. So those things are always with me, and I just have to listen. I need to listen to write. It sounds odd to say that maybe, but if I'm listening well, then something will come and I will capture it. And I don't know if you've had this experience, Claire, and I had it a lot with the new book because again, it was a more blank sheet sort of starting point. I would start a page or start a chapter, and I had literally no idea where it was going. And I would write a page, and I'd look back and read it, and I'm thinking, "Oh, where did that come from?" It's sort of surprises me, and I like that because it's sort of got a freshness about it and a real creativity that means you're sort of right. Yeah, because I said I wrote this to make sense of things, and I'm doing it for myself as well as my audience. That I wanted to make sense of stuff. There's things I didn't really that bothered me, and writing is a way for me to process, um, you know, my thoughts. And when you write things down, as we all know, it gives you a different perspective. And when we work with coaching clients, often we're encouraging people to journal, encouraging people to write things down because it gives you like a third person perspective. And that can be very helpful in clarifying your thinking and yeah, joining the dots around disparate thoughts.
Bit of distance.
Yeah, a bit of distance, bit of perspective, detachment. Yeah,
You've just helped me make sense of my very bad writing week
Oh, you've been writing this week?
last week.
Oh, last week, yeah.
But when you said I write to make sense of things, that's such a beautiful description of the not planned out, emergent, I need to sit down and see what happens kind of style, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I don't play music. I don't. This is my way of doing it. So other people will do it in other ways. Like I think, I watch people playing musical instruments, and I see that as a great expression. And I imagine there's a similar feeling that you can get from playing music. So people do it in different ways, and writing is just my way of that creative expression.
Nice. Nice. So what's your dream for this one?
Well, I'm sort of living the dream, really. I mean,
Wow.
it sounds a bit naff, sounds a bit twee, but yesterday I'm here at the Scotsman Hotel in Edinburgh. Yesterday I delivered the keynote at the B Corp conference, the first ever B Corp conference in Scotland. 150 people in the room, and I'm sharing with them about Force for Good, how to thrive as a purpose-driven leader. And so that audience, that opportunity to engage with that audience for me is really the dream of this book. It's to get to those leaders who are pioneers, who are standing for their values and committing their businesses to being a force for good. So that B Corp community, I always had the B Corp community in mind when I was thinking about this book. The strapline of B Corp is making business a force for good. The title of the book is Force for Good. So I'm obviously I'm calling to that audience. And yesterday, through a series of serendipitous events, I got to stand in front of that room, and I got to share on this. And so that's the dream, Claire. I'm going to the US later in the year. I'll engage a group there in the US on this topic. Obviously, US particularly. I mean, I don't know what sort of reception I'm going to get in the US, but it feels like an interesting time to go there. I went to Estonia to share about this book. I went to Dubai. That's the dream. And what's been lovely about those trips, all of them have come about through relationships that I had with people over many years, maybe people who I might have first met when I wrote Challenging Coaching, or when I wrote Trusted Executive. So it's been a real opportunity to reconnect with my network, to look up some old chums, and then they've said, how about you do this? How about we do that? And so yeah, it's been a real. And compared to the other two books, I've been much more relaxed about it, in a sense of I don't really have massive expectations for this book, in a sense of I'm not trying to prove anything really with this book. When you first write a book, I think you're trying to prove that you can write. Um, when I trust exec, because of that academic sort of expectation, there was a bit of weight of expectation on that. But this one, as I say, it's got a free spirit about it. I don't have massive expectations, and I think that's made the journey really fun. And yeah, I'm not like I haven't got like heavy goals around it. It's a light project, and I'm really enjoying the fact that I haven't put it into that. I haven't put big expectations on its shoulders. It's a bit like having kids, isn't it? I often talk about writing books as like having kids. I've got 2 sons, and I got 3 books, and you can put heavy expectations on your kids, or you can let them be who they are and live their version of the dream, whatever that is to them. And that's hard. You as a parent, you care, and you have expectations. It's hard to not have them. So I think, yeah, again, maybe the third child is also a more liberated soul than the first or second one. I was the second child, quite the first. Yeah, the second child. So I think just different expectations you have. So long answer to your question, but I do feel like I'm living the dream of this book at the moment.
That's lovely. And it sounds as though, as you're talking about how you're getting your speaking engagements, it sounds as though it's part of a movement or a tribe or some kind of connectivity thing across the world.
Yeah, there are different communities, business communities. B Corp, I mentioned. Vistage is a business network that I've been very closely associated with over the years. The International Coach Federation, I still have, even though I'm not as active in that community as I used to be, but I still have personal relationships that I built from that time. So yeah, there are communities. I talk a lot in the book about community and the value of community as part of the nourishment of a leader, and that community is a fantastic resource to help with your resilience and motivation in tough times. So part of thriving, I think, is to think about what communities are you part of, and how much of yourself are you investing in those communities. Because I feel over my career, there's been some great communities that I've been part of, and I probably never realized I got involved in some of them a little bit by accident or for different reasons. I got involved with the ICF because I wanted to get the credential, and but then I realized I was part of the community. And B Corp, a lot of businesses that go through the B Corp assessment, they do it because they want to get the badge. But once they've got in to the community, they realize how valuable the community is. And the reason they stay is because of the community. And so I think community is something very important. And certainly this book has tapped into, as you say, a number of different communities that I've been part of over time.
Yes, as you're talking, it really makes me think about connection. And connection around what's important and values and all those important things.
Yeah.
Because you're calling people to be different, aren't you?
Well, I'm calling people to be themselves, really.
Which is different, right?
Which is different. Yeah, I'm calling people to be themselves, which is different.
Yeah. So what are people saying about that?
About the idea of being themselves.
Yes, and being different.
Well, if I think about the audience yesterday, because of the times that we're in right now, I think people are a little bit more scared about being themselves than they were a couple of months ago. It goes through cycles, doesn't it? Sometimes it's sort of fashionable to be yourself, and sometimes it's not fashionable. I wonder if we're going into a period where it's not going to be as fashionable to be yourself. And that means, therefore, you're going to need more courage to continue to uphold that view and that way of being. So, yeah, I think, as we know as coaches, I mean, there's been a movement for a long time, really, of people wanting to claim that personal authenticity. And it's been great. Yeah, it's been great. But I wonder whether we're just at a point in the wider societal sort of context where it's going to get a bit harder, and maybe we're all going to need to adapt to that and reflect on that a little bit, because the drive for personal authenticity and being yourself creates a complex, diverse world, and not everybody feels comfortable with that. In fact, all of us at some point don't feel comfortable with it because we have to keep adapting to everybody else who's different. um, and that's hard work. It takes a lot of time and effort. So I think, yeah, we're at an interesting point in that whole cycle.
I was just thinking as you were talking, if I want to be different, then I have to be really tolerant of everyone else being different.
Yeah, yeah.
But as you were talking, I was thinking about speaking out, because it feels that the world is in a place now where it's more important to speak out and it's more difficult to speak out.
Yeah, yeah. It could get very hard to speak out. There could be a lot of consequences of speaking out. And I don't know, at what point do you not speak out? At what point do you speak out? At what point do you fit in? And at what point do you not fit in? So yeah, I'm challenged by that. I'm worried by that, I must admit, because I can see it turning quite quickly, and you can sort of see it turning quite quickly, particularly when we look at events in the US. I mean, you can see how quickly protest can become flattery, and accommodation of new behaviors that previously would not have been tolerated. But everyone's too tired to speak out or too frightened to speak out in the presence of power. Yeah, we're not actually that brave most of the time. Because, yeah, we don't want to get hurt.
And there are different risks, aren't there, at different seasons of our own personal lives.
Yeah,
I was talking to somebody yesterday and I said, at my age, I've got nothing to lose.
yeah, yeah,
But I think I say that from a position where I think that when I was younger, I think I did have something to lose. And therefore, that means that the opportunity and the courage, as you said, to speak out or to do whatever will be different for different phases. Because if it all falls over now, it's not the end of the world. If it all falls over when you've got mortgage to pay and all those other things, then it matters a lot.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's you say, the different stages of life, and being an elder of the tribe means that you get certain, some things are easier, some things are harder. The thing I miss is the naivety, because sometimes naivety prompts you to speak out because you don't actually know what you're doing. You don't even know you're being brave. And everybody else is looking at you thinking, oh my goodness, what have they just said? And you have got no idea that you've stood on a landmine, and it's about to. But I sort of miss the naivety. I mean, because I think naivety can create boldness, and I think so. I think some of the advantage of that earlier stage of life is the naivety, because people talk about naivety is a bad thing, but actually I think there's a huge amount of good in naivety. I wouldn't have done half the things that I've done if I hadn't have been ridiculously naive.
I'm thinking about that fairy. I don't know what you call it, a fairy tale or something. The Emperor's New Clothes.
Yeah.
Where the Emperor's parading naked through the street, and everybody's pretending that the Emperor's wearing clothes, except for the child.
Yes.
Who says you're not wearing any clothes.
Yeah. So was the child being brave, or was the child being naive? I think probably the child was being naive. Just saying it as it is because that's what they saw. Whereas when you get older, you weigh it up before you say anything. You're weighing up consequences. What about this? What if that happened? What if that happened? And before you know what's happened, the moment's passed, and you've not said anything.
Oh, so that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? That the timeliness of courage. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm, I can see it. Like I go out there and I talk about purpose-driven leadership and being a force for good, about trust, and I am getting, and I said this yesterday in the session yesterday, I am getting in the last month people saying to me at a certain point in the workshop or whatever, oh, John, that's all very well, but what about Donald Trump? So I am getting that sort of coming up now, and it's like people are saying, well, this doesn't work anymore, does it? And I'm going, why not? Because this isn't about what is politically desirable. This is about your values and your principles. And I am sort of quite shocked at how quickly the tone in some of those conversations is changing, and how quickly people are ditching stuff that I thought was not just a frivolous, superficial, fashionable thing, but I thought was much deeper seated than that. And I saw a quote on LinkedIn about this, which I thought was great. This is a Groucho Marx quote that says, well, these are my principles, and if you don't like them, well, I've got others. And it's like that. It's like, I'm thinking, what, you mean you adopted these principles around diversity and inclusion because you thought it was what everybody else was doing and it had the blessing of some political party, rather than that you thought it was the right thing to do according to your values and your principles? And I'm sort of like realizing that there's been a lot of this greenwashing, a lot of this diversity washing, purpose washing. There's a huge amount of it. And the tree's going to be shaken now, and a lot of people fall out of the tree because they were never holding on strong enough in the first place. Sorry, I'm getting a bit passionate there.
I think there's passion to be, passion's important, isn't it? And there's something in there about power, and that people take power, don't they? Some people take a lot of power, but actually, they only have more power when we also give it to them.
Yes. Well, that's one of the conversations I had in a workshop a couple of weeks ago, where this came up, and somebody said, "It's all very well, but what about Donald Trump?" And I did get passionate, and I heard myself saying at one point, "Who invited Donald Trump into this room? Because I didn't. Who invited him into your head? Because I didn't." And we've got to be, I think, who do we want to invite into the room? Who do you want to invite into your head? Because we don't have to invite, we've got a choice around that. And I think being more discerning about how these things are influencing us, and what voices we're paying attention to, and the way that can start to really change the atmosphere in places. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? I've got to credit him, because it's just amazing that he's able to be in every room in the world at the moment. I had a call with somebody in Hungary, and they go, halfway through the conversation, yeah, but what about Donald Trump? I'm thinking, is there anywhere that this guy is not turning up at the moment? So you have to say, look, that's great for him. Good on him. I don't know how he did it, but he's done it. But then you have to go, okay, what about my voice? Where is my voice turning up? Does my voice not matter? Am I just a sort of pawn in this Donald Trump, game, and that I'm just like letting him pull all my strings through his like dominance of the media? I mean, it's like, so I think it's a huge wake up call. But you can tell I'm really quite passionate about it.
I can hear that. And the thing about volume, where's my volume in my head around my principles?
Yeah. Am I listening to that voice, or am I just going to let that be drowned out? And how brave?
So who'd have thought when you wrote your book
be when it comes
that
to the crunch?
it would be even more
I don't know how brave I would
useful.
be.
It's extraordinary, isn't it, that it's significantly more important now than it was when you started writing it.
Yes. I thought I was writing a really fashionable book. I now realise I'm writing something very heretical.
Or prophetic.
Well, yeah, I talk about hope, but this is a book about hope. I don't profess to be, able to know the future, but I am someone who hopes about a future, and the value that's in this book is hope.
Fantastic. What a good place to end. The value in this book is hope. So the book is Force for Good by John Blakey, available from all good book sources. How to Thrive as a Purpose-Driven Leader. Yeah. And if people want to join in the conversation, how do they make contact with you, John?
Through LinkedIn is the best way. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Don't do Instagram, don't do Facebook. But yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So yeah, welcome the debate, welcome the engagement. And I hope that listeners have found that stirred them a little bit this morning.
I think it will have. And do put comments in the chat below wherever you're listening to your podcast. Thank you, John, for coming to the Coaching In.
Thank you, Claire. Pleasure.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. See you next time. Bye-bye.
If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, we'd love you to share the podcast with a friend or leave a comment on social media. And if you'd like to become a regular at the Coaching In, you can subscribe on Podbean and all major podcast channels. We look forward to welcoming you next time. You've been listening to The Coaching In, 3D Coaching's virtual pub. For more information, check out 3dcoaching.com.